Domestic violence is one of Britain's most hidden crimes, with millions of victims enduring horrific treatment behind closed doors. This week, Channel 4 News throws the spotlight on domestic violence with two special reports. Tomorrow, we'll examine controversial new police powers, which can ban alleged abusers from their own homes without conviction. But tonight, we focus on one woman's story, made public for the first time as she waives her right to anonymity. It is a shocking insight into how domestic abuse can start with a relatively small incident and develop over time into systematic rape. A warning, Andy Davis' report contains a distressing account of one ordeal.
According to the Home Office, more than 60,000 women in England and Wales are raped each year. And more than half of those rapes are committed by a current or former partner. The vast majority of incidents of domestic violence go unreported, and rarely do we ever see and hear from victims. Such is the fear of repercussions. But now, as the government highlights the issue of domestic violence yet again, one woman, raped and assaulted repeatedly at the hands of her partner 2 years ago, has decided on this programme to give up her right to anonymity. To reach out to others trapped in silence as she once was. Her name is Katie, she's 36 and still battles with the flashbacks of what she once endured.
It's like there's no pause or stop button, you just have to watch the whole thing through. And sometimes it's just...
What are you seeing?
Mainly the rapes and the attack that happened the night he was arrested.
Katie met her former partner Martin at work in Swindon at a small manufacturing company where she was an accountant, he an IT support worker. She'd had just one boyfriend before they moved in together 9 years ago. His jealousy, she recalls, became a feature of their relationship from early on.
If I did go out, I'd be bombarded with text messages and phone calls, and sort of as phone technology progressed, with demands for picture messages to actually prove I was in the supermarket or prove I was at such and such place.
He was demanding that you send him photographs of you in a particular location.
Or just a snap of the aisle at Asda to sort of prove I was in a shop.
For Katie, it felt like a slow suffocation of what had been for her a previously healthy social life. He often left her isolated at home, taking away her house keys and car keys. And then came the violence.
I remember probably the first incident, he'd been out to the pub and he did eventually stumble home, and then he was demanding that I gave him a kiss, and I really didn't want to. He was drunk and annoying. Eventually I did agree to kiss him and he bit my bottom lip really hard when I did. So yeah, that was sort of the first time he actually hurt me. But
He bit your lip?
Well, when I gave him the kiss.
Did he apologise?
No, he never apologised for anything.
The assaults soon became habitual.
Sort of something that he used to do definitely on a daily basis was like little twisting pinches, almost like Chinese burn pinches on my arms and legs.
Katie described how he used to hold knives to her stomach. In the middle of the night, suddenly push her out of bed. On more than one occasion, she thinks, cracking her ribs as she hit the bedside table. His favourite, she said, involved repeated hard slaps to the back of her head. At this point, they were still working together, but no one in the office, says Katie, was aware of what was happening. And she was too ashamed to discuss it with friends, too ashamed even to discuss it with family. She was terrified too. He'd promised repeatedly to kill her, she says, if she ended the relationship. At one point in desperation, she did call a domestic abuse charity, but the line was busy and a voicemail referred her to the police. To her enduring regret, she didn't call them. What stopped you contacting the police earlier? Were you worried that the police wouldn't intervene?
Yeah, I was just really worried that they would turn up and say that I was completely overreacting. that was my fear, that the police would turn up, find me a hysterical wreck, find him, you know, Mr. Blasé, and sort of, you know, sort of say, oh, you know, this woman's clearly hysterical, you know, the partner's nice and calm, nothing's going on.
In the summer of 2010, increasingly marginalised, Katie moved jobs to try to get some space, convincing Martin the company they were working for might make redundancies. He agreed, but the move only seemed to trigger yet more violence. That's when he began raping her. Her account of what happened is highly distressing.
After I got my new job, he sort of raped me quite violently, lots of times. I did start trying to fight back, which kind of led him to become more violent, to do what he was trying to do.
And at this stage, did you tell him that what he was doing here was...
I did, actually. A couple of times I did say to him, "You've raped me." And he would generally mock me and sort of say, "You raped me, I'm sick of hearing that." Or he'd say, you know, "Oh, come on, I know you were really enjoying it, I sort of know that's what you wanted." You looked at his eyes and there was just nothing there. And, you know, I'd be screaming and crying and he just wouldn't react. And I'd be begging him to stop sometimes and he'd say, "Oh, I can't stop now, you've really got me in the mood."
And on top of all the other abuse that you had been experiencing, how deep an impact was this now having on you personally?
Devastating. I mean, you know, I think I could cope with the physical violence and the emotional blackmail, but having that done to me just completely destroyed me. I used to drive along the motorway to work thinking, which bridge can I drive into, which lorry can I drive under, because I couldn't see any other way out other than killing myself. In the end, it was a friend who called in the police. On the evening of the 23rd of September 2010, Katie, in the midst of a row, suddenly admitted that she'd got the new job purposefully to get away from him. The violence which followed was extreme. He grabbed hold of my throat and bashed my head against the wall several times, really hard, again, enough to see stars. Then he shoved me off the side of the bed, and I got trapped sort of down between the bed and the radiator. He physically grabbed me by the hair and threw me back on the bed again. And then he got hold of my wrists and he was slamming my wrists down on the metal bedposts. And he was screaming that he was going to break my wrists. Then, because I wouldn't shut up, he put one hand over my nose and the other over my mouth. And he was pressing me against the bed. And sort of, because I couldn't breathe, I was trying to shake my head back and forth, trying to get him off me. But because he had such tight hold of my nose, it was agony trying to do that. I was still screaming and crying and trying to get away. So then he put his hand around my throat and squeezed my throat really hard. And that's kind of the last thing I remember. When she came to, he was in another room. She fled the house, drove a few streets away and called a friend in hysterics. The police were called, he was arrested, and a prosecution followed. After a trial at which Katie gave evidence via video link, last summer her former partner Martin Warden was convicted of 6 rapes and 1 assault against her. He was sentenced to 13 years in prison. The damage to Katie, however, had been profound. In the months which followed, she tried to take her own life 3 times, overdosing on antidepressants. I remember I sort of kept going into the kitchen and taking a few more and a few more. And then I just thought, do you know what? I've had enough, I'm just going to take the lot, which I did. And And don't really remember much after that until sort of vaguely remembering being in hospital the next day. Yeah, just kind of coming to with a feeling of disappointment, I guess, that I was still there.
She was diagnosed with post-traumatic stress disorder. Only now, after intensive counselling, are the flashbacks receding. For the first time in years, Katie feels she's reclaiming her mental health, her self-confidence. She's moved into a new flat. She spoke recently at a conference on domestic violence, and she's given this remarkable interview in the hope it will resonate with others, as a brutally vivid account of what happens when you leave it too late to seek help.
I want to say that things do get better. I've got back in touch with old friendships, feeling like I've really started finding my sense of self again. So yeah, I just want to say that although initially when you leave it may seem like things have got worse, if you just persevere, things will get better and you will get your life back on track again.
Katie's story offers a rare glimpse into an aspect of society as pervasive as it is ugly. This is a country where, on average, we're told 2 women are killed every week by a male partner or ex-partner. For the government, for domestic abuse charities and for the police, the challenge in trying to get help to people like Katie before it's too late remains immense.
That report by Andy Davis, and you can see a longer version of Katie's interview on our website, where you'll also find links to help victims of domestic violence. So how is the government tackling domestic violence? In tomorrow night's report, Andy Davis has had exclusive access to a pilot scheme which aims to convince victims that it is worth contacting the police.
They're called Domestic Violence Protection Orders, or DVPOs.
If you breach the order, the onus is on you not to breach it, not on her, it's on you. And if you breach it, you are liable to arrest and you will come back.
The idea is to stop suspected abusers heading straight from the police station back to their partner's home. Controversially, even if it's their home too.
That's part 2 of our Spotlight on Domestic Violence tomorrow night.